Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of the Odd Vlog. And there's a little bit of news that's come out of Disneyland Paris today, which is going to lead me on to a very random, different subject that we haven't spoken about before on these vlogs. So the news, and sorry if I'm just referring to my notes every now and again, was basically that a new Star Wars season is going to be coming to Disneyland Paris for 2019. It's called Legends of the Force, a celebration of Star Wars at Disneyland Paris in 2019. It's kind of a rehash of previous seasons that they've done, which are pretty short really, but happen more or less at the beginning of each year. I think Season of the Force is what it was called in 2018. I didn't go to it, so I can't really give any opinion on what I think of it, and I'm certainly not planning to go to it. But it did lead me on to some other news that I heard about Star Wars generally today, and that was that Matt Smith, as in the former Doctor Who Matt Smith, has landed a key role in the upcoming episode 9 of the Star Wars franchise. No real detail that I can find as to what that role might be. Don't know if he's going to be a good guy or a bad guy or exactly what's going to happen with that. But while I was looking that up, I did come across quite a lot of rumours and stories and speculation about what's going to happen in episode 9. So I thought I'd talk about that and just kind of let you know what I've come across and whether or not I think they're good ideas or not. And hopefully a lot of these are going to fix what I consider to be problems with The Last Jedi. To be perfectly honest, was not a fan of this movie. It's okay, and it's a bit of a Marmite film. Some people love it, some people hate it. A lot of people that love it kind of criticise people for not liking it and saying that you just don't like it because you were born in the 80s and you were used to what had come out before. And that those people are probably the ones that liked The Force Awakens, as I did, because it was probably quite similar in storyline terms to what had happened previously. But kind of just in respect to that, I would say that doesn't necessarily mean that, for me personally, I'm not open to the franchise being different and telling different kinds of stories, because Rogue One, I really loved it. Really, really enjoyed it. I loved the way that it tied in with the films. It told a very unique, very different story, whole new characters, and was just really, really good. I mean, every scene in that I enjoyed and was just really cool. I think for me, particularly with things like Solo and these other kind of spin-off films that they're doing, they're okay as long as they have a link really to I suppose the original Star Wars, which Rogue One obviously does. I'm not going to talk about Solo. I'm going to wait for that to come out on DVD just in case I give away any kind of spoilers for that, and I haven't seen it properly yet myself, so we're going to hold off from talking about that until another time. But yeah, for me, The Last Jedi just had too many problems, and hopefully some of these rumours that we have come across today and we'll be talking about are going to fix a few of those problems. So the first one is Rey's real parentage, and something that obviously in The Force Awakens they started to kind of pick away at and coming up with this storyline that they were going to go through. It was kind of similar in a way to what had happened previously with these Star Wars films, so perhaps it wasn't so well received. But they kind of bigged it up so much and put so much emphasis on where she'd come from and who her parents were, that then when The Last Jedi came out and just snuffed all of that out and just said, well, your parents are nobody, kind of just ruined that, because then it makes everything that happens in The Force Awakens in that aspect completely irrelevant, and you've kind of just had your time wasted. So it was, for me, one of the bigger complaints I had about The Last Jedi is the fact that it just tears away everything that had been done before it, setting these storylines up and then just completely dismissing them and getting rid of them, which is just completely pointless. So hopefully that will actually come back. The theory I've heard, or the rumour that I've heard, is that Rey being told that her parents were nobody is basically just the First Order kind of trying to mislead her and perhaps get her to come over to their way of thinking and over to the kind of dark side, if you like, which is quite possible. They're perhaps trying to cover something up. So hopefully we'll actually go back to getting that kind of story arc, if you like, that storyline in a bit more detail, and we'll get that answered. So I've also heard that the Hutts might come back. So whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it would be good because, again, that links into the original films, and I think looking at the Hutts would be kind of cool. It's not really something that has been opened up since the original films, and they're just awesome, really. They're basically like a gang, so a bit like a kind of mob mentality. So I think it'd be kind of an interesting aspect to go through. Again, it links with those other films, so I personally would love for the Hutts to be in there. In what capacity, we'll wait and find out. So yeah, if that rumour turns out to be true, I'm all for that. Linked in with that, I also heard that DJ would be coming back, and DJ is, I'm going to get his name wrong here, Benedicto del Toro's character, and that he, being a bit of a kind of gangster, has ties to the Hutts, and that's perhaps where his story will connect those two films together. I really liked his character. If there's one good thing in The Last Jedi, I thought it was him, and I kind of wish that they had played on that a little bit more, and that he'd have had a bigger, I suppose, impact in the film and been more of a major character. So there's still time for that, and I personally like to see more of him. I kind of felt like the impact of his character was very sort of Jack Sparrow-ish from the first Pirates of the Caribbean film, and that they could have done more with it, which obviously in Pirates they did for Jack Sparrow, so I'd like to think that they will now for DJ in the next coming film. So we'll see. That was just a rumour, so we'll wait and find out. Apparently there's going to be a bit of a time jump. Another rumour that I've heard is that there'll be a 5-year time lapse in between The Last Jedi and Episode 9, during which, and this was a bit weird, Kylo Ren has managed to convince or fool, either by force or by trickery, I don't know, most of the galaxy into thinking that he's somehow the good guy. I don't really know how you go about doing that. But apparently it's being done in such a way that would lead the Resistance themselves to question whether or not they should even be fighting in the first place, and who it is that they are supposed to be fighting. So it'd be quite interesting to see whether or not he's actually going to make some sort of half-hearted effort to perhaps turn good and turn to the light. I don't know. But an interesting theory, and I'm not really sure how that will work, if he's supposed to be the kind of big bad character, the Darth Vader of these three films. And then again, tied with that was the whole idea that the kind of next generation of sort of force-sensitive Jedis and Sith, or whoever they may be, will be explored, and that it would involve a possible kind of love story between Rey and Kylo, and that it actually may involve them having children, which, again, I don't know if any of that is true, but the idea that they actually do have a bit of a relationship in those 5 years, that Rey secretly has a child that Kylo doesn't know about, and there's obviously a potential sort of twist in there somewhere. I don't know. Again, that is just a rumour. We don't know if that's going to be true, but quite an interesting way of going about it. Potentially setting up then future episodes, films, trilogies, whatever, for the children of Rey and Kylo, and just sort of seeing how they progress and how they develop. We mentioned before about tying in with previous films, and that The Force Awakens was sort of criticised for the way that it really was a bit of a kind of rehash of A New Hope. There were certainly similarities, and really it was just another Death Star, just a bit bigger. So one of the possible storylines that I've heard about is that there is like this water world style planet somewhere within the galaxy that is actually a base for the First Order, and it is where their sort of giant war factory is actually set. And the whole idea I can see kind of unravelling about that is that, similar to destroying the Death Star, they're now perhaps trying to destroy this war factory and put an end to the First Order's kind of tyranny and rule by power. Interestingly, another tie-in with that was the idea that the Resistance is giving the information about where this base is because of a mole or a leak within the First Order. One theory I heard that it could actually be General Hux that's the mole, and that he's feeding that information to the Resistance basically to undermine the leadership of Kylo Ren, because obviously we know that they don't get on. General Hux probably feels like he should be the man in charge now that Snoke has gone. So an interesting direction for those characters to move in, and yeah, we'll wait and see whether or not that works out. I think that would actually be kind of cool, so I'd quite like to see that. I mentioned Snoke, and I've heard that there's the possibility that he may return in some form or another. That might be that it's a bit of a backstory, or it could be that he's somehow actually not dead. Don't know. The Snoke thing was a really major letdown for me in The Last Jedi, because he was supposed to be this big bad major all-powerful villain that just was again thrown away in the space of about 5 minutes. Hardly had any screen time. You never found out what his backstory was, how on earth he managed to come from the ashes of the Empire to build this First Order. We never got to find that out. It was completely ruined as far as I was concerned. Killing him off was just, again, a complete waste of everybody's time. I don't know why they did it. I just don't understand it. So the idea that he might come back, I certainly would like to know more about his character and where he's come from and why he ended up being in the position that he was. Whether or not it is because of backstory, where they look at his kind of his rise to power, if you like, or whether it is because somehow he is still alive. I don't mind. I just would like those questions answered as to where he came from. So hopefully they will explore that a little bit more. We mentioned the Force. I heard a rumour that actually Poe Dameron might be Force sensitive, and that he discovers that in Episode 9. I'm not really sure if I'd want that, to be honest. He was kind of the new Han Solo, was the way I interpreted his character, be it the kind of cocky pilot that was kind of funny and a bit kind of egotistical, and I thought that the idea of him being Force sensitive was a little bit strange. I don't really see that myself. I mean, it may be true. It could just be a complete rumour, I don't know. But I wouldn't be overly keen on that. As well as Snoke possibly returning, there's the idea, this made me laugh, that Han Solo is alive in an alternative dimension. Alternative dimensions are not something that I've ever come across in any kind of Star Wars canon having been used. It's not impossible, and it's science fiction, so I suppose they could kind of go down that route. Yeah, I don't know, really. The whole impact of Solo being killed in The Force Awakens would obviously then be lost. But then, if they start bringing in alternative dimensions, they could do all sorts of different things and really open it up. It wouldn't be a surprise for kind of Disney at the helm of these films to kind of do that, so that they can then create more spin-offs and new trilogies and new storylines and all sorts of different things. If they're bringing him back, obviously what they will presumably be doing is, I guess, killing off Princess Leia. This was another massive complaint I had about The Last Jedi, is that they had a scene where they could have killed off her character in a way that you could have accepted, and that was kind of peaceful and respectful of the fact that Carrie Fisher had gone. And when I saw the film for the first time and she had that sequence where she was in this ship, it got blown up, she was thrown out into space, it just had a feel about it that I thought, okay, yeah, I can accept that that's how she goes. And then all of a sudden she turns into Superman. She flies through space, and I'm sorry, but even the most powerful Jedi Masters in the world cannot fly through space. So how is it that someone with even the mildest connection to the Force can do that? I've no idea. It was stupid. It looked pathetic. It was just the worst thing in that film for me. They had an opportunity to respectfully let that character die off, and instead they just did something ridiculous. I hated that. I genuinely hated that, and it basically ruins the film for me, because everything after that I'm too busy thinking, what was that? What was that about? So there you go. Obviously in the next film we presume that they're going to actually finally give her the ending, and I just hope it's as good as she deserves, as Carrie Fisher deserves to have her character come to an end in a way that is again very respectful and just gives the character the ending that that she deserves. She's a major character, a wonderful actress, and it's a huge loss, but I could have accepted her story coming to an end in the way that I thought it was happening in that film. But anyway, we'll move on from that. I've also heard the idea that Luke might return. Again, how, I don't know, but obviously now we know that Force Ghost or ghosting is something that Jedis are clearly capable of doing. It's very cool, and I quite like it, and I would like Luke Skywalker to come back. I kind of feel like they could have done a lot more with that character, because the way that he was portrayed in The Last Jedi was just weird. The things that he did, the things he said, it just made no sense. It wasn't. It had no continuity with the character from previous films, and I get that obviously that time has passed and people develop and they grow, but it just felt like it was going against everything that you knew Luke Skywalker was. So I'd like for him to come back, and I'd like for them to fix that, as well as all these other things. So yeah, I wouldn't mind if he actually isn't dead after all, because yeah, I don't want him to be dead. Luke Skywalker's supposed to be the hero. He is the hope. And quite clearly he hasn't finished off the Empire, because it still exists in a different form. So perhaps he needs more of a kind of heroic ending, perhaps. I'm not sure, but I certainly would like to see more of Luke, personally. But so there we go. Those are the things that I've heard about. We don't know whether or not any of these are going to be true. They are just rumours at the moment. Some of them could turn out to be. There are a few in there that certainly I would like to be, and some of them that are a little bit funny and a little bit weird. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Obviously, I'm not a fan of The Last Jedi. Perhaps you could let me know by giving this video either a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Thumbs up if you agree with me and you don't like The Last Jedi, or thumbs down if you think I'm talking rubbish and actually The Last Jedi was a great film. Yeah, vote using the thumbs up or thumbs down and let me know what you think. I will be doing some more Star Wars videos. We're probably going to do a little review of the Solo film once that's out on DVD, and then probably after that we'll do pretty much like a ranking of all of the Star Wars films so far, and what I think of them and what order I would put them in. It's no surprise that episodes 1, 2 and 3 are probably going to be at the bottom of that list, so we'll see how we go from there. Anyway, I'd be really grateful if you could subscribe and perhaps share this video as I can. As I say, use the thumbs to vote whether or not you agree with me with some of these things. And that's it. I think with that said, we're all done. So hopefully I will see you in the next episode, which I think will be episode number 7. In a couple of weeks' time, we've got the Chestnut Tree House charity 10k race that I'm taking part in. So I'll probably do an episode about that. And there's also a bit of a surprise trip coming up over the next few days, where hopefully I'm going to be getting a lot of video footage. So stay tuned, go ahead and subscribe, make sure you hit the notification icon so that you don't miss any of those upcoming videos, and I'll see you guys real soon.